Hey guys, I'm Tiffany. This month I'm in Bangkok, Thailand, and in this video I'll be taking you along with me as I rebrand an architecture firm in San Francisco, California. I'm heading to a nearby cafe, so let's take a grab motorbike there and I'll tell you about them on the way. So the client that I'm working with right now is RYS Architects. It's a design firm that offers architecture services for the hospitality industry. They reached out to me in need of a rebrand because they've been working with this logo and similar versions of it for the past 30 years. They're also experiencing quite a few changes. First, they decided to slightly change their business name from RYS Architects to Studio RYS. So the addition of studio adds a creative, collaborative vibe that's really important to them and the rebrand. Second, leadership is going to be changing as the founding principal retires. And then third, in addition to offering their architecture services, they're also offering interior design services. So these are all super common reasons for rebrand, and I'm so excited to go on this journey with them. Okay guys, we arrived at a keen space, so I'll get you inside. If you're ever in Bangkok, I recommend this cafe. I always get the piccolo and the pumpkin toast, but I loved working from here because it's super artsy and minimal, lots of cool furniture, and tons of natural light. But anyways, let's continue on and review their Pinterest inspiration board to kind of get an idea of their brand vision. So at a minimum, you can see their brand needs to convey expertise, sophistication, trust, professionalism, and refinement. During the brand strategy call, we teased out a few more ideas to design around. One idea that they loved was having some distinct creative edge to the logo. Second is collaboration. This is the type of company where they leave their egos at the door and they work in tandem with their clients to create enduring solutions. Third is excellence. Their clients come to them project after project because of their well-executed ideas. So a few things that they want to avoid include the color yellow. This is a color they've been working with for the past 30 years, and they're ready to switch this up. In addition to this, we also want to avoid the color orange. Boxes and squares, also because this is a bit overdone in this industry. And then anything that resembles their day-to-day architecture tools, because this is a bit on the nose, obvious, and a little bit cheesy. Okay, so let's jump in and start designing. So I've narrowed down a few fonts that I'd like to experiment with. For concept one, I'm going with this font, but something about the S feels a little too wide sitting next to the R and the Y. So I'm gonna pull an S from another font that works a little better for what I'm envisioning. Overall though, I've chosen a serif because this conveys professionalism, trust, expertise, and excellence. I also like that this font has soft edges, which helps us convey collaboration and a more welcoming feel. Something we discussed on our call a lot was balancing creative elements with professionalism. So how do we include creative flares that are subtle and not so in your face? Striking this balance was top of mind. So I started exploring different ways to give the letter forms a fresh shape that was still legible. And once I settled on a design that I loved, I started building out the logo variations so that my client could see how the different formats would be applied for every situation that they'd need. At this stage of the design process, I present 3 different concepts to my client, but in this video, I'm focusing on the one that they've chosen. For now, here's a pared back version of the presentation that I sent to my client for review. Designing these 3 concepts typically takes about 1 to 2 weeks. Okay guys, I need to reset my creativity, so let's head to Talat Noi. After presenting these concepts, Studio RYS responded a few days later with their feedback and revision requests. So let's get settled in and I'll run through the revision phase of my design process. Today, I'm working from the Thailand Creative and Design Center. So first, they were curious how a typical Y would fit into this logo, but ultimately I did not recommend these approaches as it creates a lot of imbalances. You can see the problem areas circled in red here. However, if a typical Y structure was a non-negotiable for my client, I recommended this setup as it's a lot more balanced and achieves their goal of making the logo have some distinct creative flair. And in case they decided they wanted to move in this direction, I built out the logo variation so that they could envision how the full brand suite would look. During the revision process, I always include the original concept so that my client can conveniently compare the edits and decide which direction resonates best. In addition to experimenting with the format of the Y, they were interested in seeing a few alterations to the original Y. And you can see these small tweaks highlighted here in blue. Now that I've got all their feedback incorporated and explored, I put everything into this presentation that I have on screen, and at this stage I'll send this off for review. But before I left the Thailand Design and Creative Center, I had to see if they had a section for logo design because I saw tons of books on interior design, art, and architecture, and it turns out they did. They even had a section on typography-based logos, and if you have seen any of my previous work, you know that this is my niche. Okay, let's go get a matcha at Peace Teahouse, and I'll let you know what their final decision was. Now that they've approved the final look, it's time to export all of the files. To make this easier, I used Logo Package Express to export all of the logo files my client will need for print and digital situations. From here, I designed their brand guidelines booklet, complete with their color rules, how to use their logo, all the variations that it comes with, and then their specific fonts. Once I have everything ready to send, I upload the files to WeTransfer. It's usually 200 or 300 files. I send the link to my client so that they can download everything on their computer. Alright guys, I'm heading to the spa to get an office syndrome massage. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.